Hey guys, welcome back to the Bargain Collector. I'm Justin Ramon Thinney. Come on in, kick your feet up, hit the like, and definitely hit the subscribe. So as I was stating in one of my last videos, I stopped by a local video store that I hadn't seen before. It was down the street from my house. I just happened to be taking a back street and found it. And they have all of their DVDs and Blu-rays for only $2. And so one of the many, many titles I picked up was Shaft from 2019, starring Samuel L. Jackson, Richard Roundtree, and I think his name is Usher T. Jackson, I think. Found that on Blu-ray. I've heard a lot of people tell me a lot of different things about the movie, but as I'd said during my initial find, one of the most interesting comments was that somebody told me that this was the blackest movie they'd ever seen. And I thought that was just such an interesting comment to make about a film, an interesting review to have on a film. So anyway, what I'm going to do is very, very super briefly, I'm going to tell you about the technical specs of the film. So this particular release was a 2019 theatrical release of Shaft starring Samuel L. Jackson, and it comes to you on Blu-ray on a dual layer BD50. Okay, it has Dolby Atmos sound, so the sound system was like this. What I will say though is the bit rate. I don't know how bit rates because I didn't really get into that too much until I got into 4K, but it does hover around at like a 25 or so megabits per second. And what I will say is that the colors are definitely very vibrant. And it does have pretty much a sharp picture. But I felt the image for Blu-ray could have certainly been better, especially since I have a pretty good setup in terms of upscaling Blu-rays. So it could have used a little bit more sharpening, but you know what? It doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, what does matter is, was the movie entertaining? And I'll get to that in a second. But what I'll say is that the critical response for the film from the critics, it was kind of split down the middle, mostly though kind of middle of the road to negative. And much of what they attacked was primarily the outdated jokes, because they delved more into an outdated sense of sexuality and you know, just kind of very crude humor. I I don't know. I felt like it was very apropos for what Shaft is. Shaft was never meant to be a man of modern sensibilities. He is a womanizing guy. He likes to drink and likes to party and he likes to kick ass and take names and it's a very macho kind of a thing. So to kind of try to bring in nowadays sentiment into what Shaft is doesn't make much sense. So I'm glad that audience reactions was very, very different. Audiences seem to love the movie. And funny enough, I'll link the two by saying that audiences and the critics both felt that Samuel L. Jackson was his charisma, his on-screen chemistry with everyone. Like, he was the guy. Hands down, he was the biggest attraction to the movie. And that was whether you were looking at what critics said or whether you were looking at what audiences said. Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson's character was just top notch. I love the throwback feel of the film. It was really interesting. It felt like the old Shaft movies, but then it also felt like the 2000, whatever was the early 2000 Shaft movie. But then it had its own little feel at times too. I guess it all depended on which character and which point of view we were dealing with at any particular time in the film. And the film gave you all three of those, which was a very welcome thing. It wasn't like they shoved all three generations of Shaft men into one fixed era. They had a chance to exist in all three eras and bring all three eras to the table and tell a story from all three different perspectives of those men, which were all wildly different, yet at the same time, they all shared a similar vision. Once they were kind of all pointed in the right direction, they shared a similar vision as to how to solve the problem. We'll just put it that way. So I really did love that. I loved the over the top action. I love the gritty feel of the film. I loved the blackness of this movie. I know that for a lot of people, that sounds like a very, I don't know, a very touchy thing to say, and it could come off as being something that's not a positive. But this is what I'll say: is that I think what they mean by the blackness of the film is that in Black culture there is a lot of shorthand, so we don't have to explain a lot of things. Certain things are just done by a look. Right. I don't have to say I don't have to say a word to my best friend. If I look at him, he knows exactly what I'm saying. I know not one single word had to be spoken. And so I think that that's what they mean by it's the blackest film. I think it's a lot of Black culture shorthand that's in the film, and it really hits. It really hits. When it hits, it hits. And I had a really, really good time with the film. Now, on to my thoughts as to putting it in my collection. What I'll say is this, is that if you look at it, it has very moderate shelf appeal. I mean, you're looking at a standard slipcase. The artwork is pretty good. I like the colors and everything. It's very moderate in terms of shelf appeal. So I would say if I had to give a point, I would give half a point because, like I said, it's very moderate. But the question is, was it entertaining? Yes, 1000% entertaining. I had a wonderful time from the first moment till the last. I love the mystery element of it. Whereas in most Shaft movies, you know who the bad guy is and you're just going after the bad guy. Every Shaft movie you've ever watched, they very clearly up front tell you this is your bad guy. This is your villain. This is who they're going after, and this is what they're up against. In this movie, they took a different path. They actually gave you someone is murdered, but who did it, and they're leading you in all these different directions, and you're watching the case be solved mainly by two different eras. You have Usher T. Jackson in this era, and then you have Shaft, his father, and watching their approaches to this solving this mystery was pretty entertaining. And then on top of that, because they had a very strange relationship, watching them try to repair that relationship while investigating was wonderfully entertaining. It provided a lot of humor. The clash of cultures between the two, even though both are Black culture, it was very, very different. They come from different ends of it. It just really, really worked. And if you haven't seen it, I don't want to ruin it for you. It was very, very entertaining, very well written, very well performed. I thought everybody hit every beat wonderfully. Now, the question becomes, is it rewatchable? Nah, not for me. Not for me. I think this is really a one-time kind of a viewing. Um, I think don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not entertaining. What I'm saying is what are the chances of me pulling it off of my shelf to watch it again? It's very low. What are the chances that I'm going to have somebody over and say, "Hey guys, you know what we should do? We should watch Shaft." I think that's probably more likely than me pulling it off the shelf to watch it again, is what I would say. And that's no knock against the film. The film is wonderfully entertaining. I think Samuel Jackson kills it. I think Richard Roundtree did a wonderful job. Regina Hall, for her not to have been given that much to work with, I thought she was great. I thought she was wonderful. The young lady that plays Usher T. Jackson's love interest, she was wonderful. Again, she was given maybe a little bit more to work with than Regina Hall, which is sad. But yeah, I thought they all did a wonderful job. I thought the director was great. The action was great. Everything was great. It's just not something I would pull off the shelf and watch again myself. And I think there's not a good chance of me pulling it off the shelf to show someone else. That's just my thoughts. But if you haven't seen it, it is definitely worth a watch. And if this is something up your alley, it's something that I recommend you buy and add to your library if that's up your alley. But outside of that, yeah, I'll be not adding this, but it was wonderful. And yeah, I will hopefully have my setup working again here pretty soon. I'm hopeful. Hopeful. And then I can get back to recording them regularly. But until then, until next time, keep finding good films at great prices.